So, hey, wonderful people of the internet, this is Chris, and this is a not science-specific, not time-specific reading, just for the collective, just where we stand here in 2026. So relax, take a deep breath, like I always say, the out-breaths make it longer than the in-breaths if you have to release stress and negativity. So let's just see about this world, about the stage of the world in 2026 right here, right now. The Hierophant, okay, we've learned something and there's justice around the corner. That's beautiful. Things are speeding up, right? Knight of Swords. There's also the Page of Pentacles. Let's just take the Page of Pentacles. Okay, let's check the Page of Pentacles, the Two of Cups, Six of Pentacles, and let's just see four more, three, and then one central card. There's the Two of Wands, then we got the Four of Swords, then we got the wonderful Empress, very much appreciated, I'm happy she's here, Abundance, so this is a good reading already. Then we got one more for the center. That's the Sun card. Okay, so Five of Swords at the bottom of the deck. So this is basically a reading for humanity, for all of us, that the collective, basically the world, the state of the world, right? So there is a dirty fight. There's a very dirty fight. Five of Swords is a very, very dirty fight. It's the bottom of the deck. That's kind of the environment, the overall frequency in which we are living in. And if you watch the news, if you look into social media, of course, there's war everywhere, there's conflict, there's upheaval, there's chaos, there is psychological warfare, right? Confusion, distractions, right? Messy, right? So this is pretty much represented by the Five of Swords, but the Five of Swords is the ending of that messy situation. And we get a lot here that looks like peace, right? So we got the Two of Cups, that's the foundation. First of all, it starts with this message that we've got this, right? Humanity has got it, right? All it takes to solve this situation. It's, you know, the most profound steps in evolution, in consciousness, basically, of humanity have always happened in times of turmoil, right? So we got this. We've done it before. We're doing it this time, even if it's not super comfortable. But I think in 2026, as I'm doing this reading, and I said it's not time specific, it's not time specific in the sense that you should address it to a specific month in 2026, but it's kind of the overall frequency that I'm picking up right here, right now. And this is 2026. 2026 is also the year where the mindfuck finally subsides, right? Where a lot of people are waking up, and again, there is a new developmental cycle. I'm going to link a very interesting reading at the end of this reading instead of a specific reading of my own, because I want you to understand how crucial 2026 is going to be and what is to come. What is to come is not the continuation of all that BS that we've been through in the last 10 years, in the last decades even, right? So we got this, there's peace, there is the Six of Pentacles. If you have given a lot, if you have suffered a lot, the universe is trying to make it even, right? So there's justice here. We get several indications here that there is a big how do you say this? Balancing happening, right? There's the Justice card, and there's the second card with scales in it. There are only two cards with scales, and we got both of them. Justice card and the Six of Pentacles. If you have given a lot, you're going to receive now, and if you have taken a lot or received a lot, it's time to give. So this is justice, cosmic justice for humanity on a bigger scale. And there's time to take action. That's for sure. This justice is not just falling from heaven, nobody's coming to save us, so to speak. We have to save ourselves, so we have to take action. We have to call out BS. We have to say no. We have to stand up for our principles, right? Not just not and, guilt, fear, shame, but own your own darkness. If you own your own darkness, if you own your own shit, so to speak, right? Everything that we're ashamed of, everything that we're afraid of, everything that we feel guilty of, maybe even, right? So you have to work with that and you have to make peace with that, because then nobody can blackmail you, then nobody can, pressure you. And this is how it's done, right? A lot of the evil in this world is not done by particular evil people, but by people who are easily manipulated to guilt, fear, and shame. And you have to rise above that. You have to make peace with your own shadow aspect. That's what Carl Jung talked about all the freaking time, because otherwise evil, the darkness, will take advantage of that. So you have to grow up a little and own your own BS. And we're human beings. We all have a shadow side. That's a human condition, right? We make mistakes and we learn and grow through and by these mistakes. Maybe we find a different way soon, that we don't have to fail so, big, or make that many mistakes to learn. Maybe we find a more grown-up approach to learning, But this is just humanity in adolescence, basically. So we're learning this as we go. So you have to act according to your principles. You have to uphold your principles, not just say, oh, this is wrong, but create some discomfort, not in sort of violence, but speak up even if your voice is shaking. And this is how we make it happen, right? We can do this. We got everything we need. We still got a pretty functional constitution. We still got independent courts, even if they are under threat, things like that, right? So we can call on them. We can use the tools that are given to us. We got everything we need to do this and to make this happen. That's the combination of the Page of Pentacles, but we have to take action, right? It's not just, going to a demonstration and making a sign. That's cute, but it's not really impressing anybody who has power and who is executing this power to dismantle democracy and freedom. That's not going to impress them. You have to talk to your representative, how is that called in English? To your guy in parliament, basically, and make your voice heard, but not just by, that is part of it, showing presence and solidarity and meeting other people. So that has its function, right? But it cannot be that alone. So you have to really stand up for your own principles. And that's this combination. You got everything, we got everything as humanity. We need to do that. We are looking to a brighter future, that's for sure. Justice is upon us, right? The balance will be restored. And then we got this storyline here. Yeah, we're looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to, that's very powerful here in the middle. Looking forward to peace. And the most important thing, if you fight narcissistic, antagonistic, toxic people, you don't fight them in the traditional sense that you become violent or aggressive or raise your voice or things like that. That's their game. So they want you to lose your temper. They want you to scream. They want you to get violent, because then you make mistakes and then they can exploit these mistakes. So don't play into their effed up manipulation game. So you uphold your own principles and you're the bigger person, but not in the sense that you just allow things to happen, but in the sense that you control your own emotions. And you make peace with your inner shadow aspect, Carl Jung shadow work, right? If you are afraid of yourself, for example, I'm gay, if I'm living in shame, guilt, and fear because I'm gay, then everybody who just hints to the possibility that I might be gay can induce fear, guilt, and shame in my consciousness, therefore lowering my frequency of my consciousness. And this is an act of psychological warfare. This is an act of suppression. So if I don't own up to myself, if I'm not wholeheartedly loving myself, respecting myself, and transcending and integrating myself, even the shadow aspects, right? And it's debatable whether, but sexuality is usually something we do in private. So, there is a shadow aspect to every human being, whether it's being gay or, I don't say being gay is shadow aspect, but we all have something that is in our society, in the social structures that we're living in, not accepted, not fully accepted, not fully supported. And there is a lot of guilt, fear, and shame built, institutionalized, built around that. So, for example, if you're gay in Russia, that's a whole different story than being gay in the United States or Western Europe, right? So if you create a situation where being yourself is kind of outlawed through guilt, fear, and shame, where it is prosecuted, then you can manipulate people, blackmail them, and pretty much, make them submissive and shut up, not speak up their voice, even if their voice is shaking, which is very important to do so. But especially in Western Europe, especially in the United States, we have actually pretty good systems at play, even if they're under attack. So use that, speak up to yourself. And in order to do that, there are two things you need to do. You have to make peace with yourself. So own up to who you truly are, never negotiate who you are. You don't need to advertise it to people or whatever, but it's just be yourself unapologetically, and don't allow anybody to trick you into guilt, fear, shame, because that's a form of manipulation and actually mindfuck, and we can call it actually psychological warfare at this time, right? So don't let that happen, because then you are part of their system. If they can blackmail you through guilt, fear, shame, that's how it works. So love yourself, that's the big aspect. And then when you make peace with yourself, when somebody hints at you being gay and you're gay, then you just shrug your shoulders and say, yeah, whatever, right? And that's no big deal. But if you shrug and you think, oh my God, somebody found out my secret, then you're already making yourself small, and you're already dropping your frequency of your consciousness, and you're easily manipulated through that. So stand up for yourself. And if the state is against you, if the state has created circumstances where that is possible, or even informed or supported even through the laws, that needs to change. That is much harder to change that, right? But if the state, if the constitution is on your side, basically, you have no reason to be ashamed of yourself, right? And that is part of it. Loving yourself, respecting yourself, making peace with who you are, never negotiate who you are. And you do that through breathwork, right? Through meditation, what I always say, to fitness, to eating healthy. Get some spirulina in there, for example. That's super important. That's not medical advice, but I do that. But, do it or don't. Inform yourself about it. But have a decent, how do you say this? Nutrition, right? And then do breathwork, do meditation, right? And do not take the bait of the narcissist. Do not go down into the mud with the narcissist. And that means don't use their same techniques. Don't blackmail other people. Don't push other people down. That's what they do. That's their structure, right? Their hierarchy is basically built on pushing others down in order to give themselves the false sense of elevation. That is very, very toxic. And it only works if there is guilt, fear, and shame in you. If you have not integrated your shadow, that's how it works. If you have integrated your shadow, then all that guilt, fear, shame that comes from them just passes right through you, or, it doesn't even touch you because, well, I'm just me, period, right? F you. And then you're not manipulated through that. So you have to own up to yourself. You have to love yourself. Self-love is salvation. I tell you that. That's absolutely true. Self-love is salvation. Not just the lovey-dovey parts of yourself. Love yourself wholeheartedly. And if you indeed did something, we all did something, right? We're not very proud of, maybe feel guilty or ashamed about. Integrate that, work with that, look at it and heal it within yourself. Maybe you have to apologize to someone. Maybe you have to just make it even. But then, if you transcend and integrate it, nobody can blackmail you or manipulate you through that. So don't be manipulated. Don't be pushed down through guilt, fear, shame. And don't push others down through the same mechanism. That would be playing the same game that they are playing. You don't want to do that, because otherwise, if we behave like antagonistic, narcissistic, toxic people, we become like them. So we have to uphold our principles. We have to speak up even if our voice is shaking. And that's how we bring justice and how we make democracy function again, right? Even if it is under attack, and it worked in other places, against all odds, basically. And you can do this, we can do this, right? And we have done it before. So, secret, keep inner peace. Respect yourself, love yourself, integrate your shadow, work with that shadow. Look at it, don't run away from it. Because if you can look at it, everybody can exploit you by it or through it. And then don't behave like antagonistic, narcissistic people. Don't push others down. Don't scream. Don't be violent. Don't be manipulative. Speak your truth. Be truthful. Uphold everything that's righteous and decent and act accordingly. And, we got the Hierophant here. That's the spiritual leader. That's the spiritual teacher. Become the change by acting according to your principles, There's the Sun card and there's the Empress. So it's really, really good. The conflict is ending. How? By standing up for your principles, living your principles, taking action, bringing about justice. There's a great balancing process that is happening. And then we are looking literally towards peace, right? Two opposing forces. That's water and fire. Polar opposites, basically. Male, female, water, fire. They come together. And it's basically making peace, right? Fire is still fire, water is still water, right? But there can be peaceful coexistence, right? That's how it has always been. That's like the yin-yang symbol, right? The darkness and the light. Every light casts a shadow. Every shadow presupposes the light. And there's darkness, there's kind of a blind spot in every side. There is, if you think about the yin-yang symbol, there's a dark spot in the white side, and there's a white spot in the dark side. And that's just how it works. That's how it keeps its balance. But if one side of the coin, so to speak, tries to destroy the other side of the coin, I think that's true, right? One side of the coin tries to destroy the other side of the coin. And then they think, oh, we are winning this, right? But there is no coin with just one side. If one side of the coin destroys the other side of the coin, then there's not going to be a coin, because no matter how thin the coin gets, there will always be two sides till everything is gone, and then there's no coin and no side. That can't work. That is systemically, logically, universally impossible. Okay? But, not everybody gets that. I'm sorry to say this, but that's how it is. So don't be one-sided. Evil is not on one side. Evil is one-sidedness. Hierophant, Sun card, Empress, and Justice, and the Six of Pentacles. So it looks like 2026 is a lot is going to happen in 2026. Good stuff, unexpectedly good stuff, but people have to stop being hopeless and, hopelessness, guilt, fear, shame. These are frequencies of your consciousness. And to lower these frequencies is kind of an act of war. Cognitive warfare, consciousness warfare. If I can bring you into guilt, fear, shame, hopelessness, I can control you. And if I bring you into rage and anger and hatred, I can make you one of the dark side, right? Look, it's all there. It's in Star Wars. You can watch Star Trek, which I totally recommend you to do. All sorts of Star Trek Next Generation. It's the best. There's so much wisdom in there. So keep your inner peace, love yourself, integrate your shadow. Then no one can manipulate you through guilt, fear, shame, into anger and hatred. If you arrive at anger and hatred, anger can be a catalyst for change and for action. So anger is not negative in itself, but hatred certainly is. And you get there through guilt, fear, shame, pushed further and further down. That's how they get you. Hatred is basically the dark side, right? And the manipulation and suppression through guilt, fear, and shame only works if you have unintegrated aspects of yourself within yourself. Because if somebody triggers you because you're gay, if somebody triggers you because you're trans or this or that, if you make peace with it internally, that's no longer a trigger. Right? You only get triggered and manipulated by it if it works internally, if you create or if you fall into a lower frequency of guilt, fear, shame, then you can be manipulated through that. So making peace with yourself, I say this again, never negotiate who you are, right? Never negotiate who you are beyond fear. There's only love. And I say this again, self-love is salvation. There's this concept of loving thy neighbor as thyself, right? You can turn this around and love thyself as thy neighbor. How you turn it doesn't really matter. The point is there are two sides. One is self-love, or self-love, right? On the one hand, and then there's the love of thy neighbor or the other. So loving yourself and loving others. And I said this before, evil is not on one side, evil is one-sidedness. You have to keep both in the balance. You have to love thyself as thy neighbor. There's an equality, not one more than the other. Not one is negated and just the other. That's like the two sides of the coin. You can't have a coin with just one side. It's not working like that. We have in duality here, right? Duality doesn't work that way. Trinity doesn't work that way, right? But, so you have to make a balance between loving yourself and loving others. One-sidedness is always toxic. And it starts, I would argue, with self-love, because you cannot love someone else on a higher level than you love yourself. You can only give and take love to others, or give love to others, or receive love from others on the same level that you love yourself. So if you love yourself down here and you expect to receive love on a higher level, that's not going to work. You can only receive the love that you have for yourself. And that's the only frequency that you can give as well, right? So the love that you have for yourself determines the amount of love that you can receive from others and give to others. So it starts with yourself. First rule of mental health: learn to distinguish who deserves an explanation, who deserves an answer, and who deserves absolutely nothing. Right? That's kind of part of this taking action part. Learn to distinguish who deserves an explanation, who deserves an answer just, and who deserves absolutely nothing. Hans Denk, that's an interesting quote here. I hadn't have had this before, but it's interesting. God forces no one, for love cannot compel, and God's service therefore is a thing of perfect freedom. God forces no one, for love cannot compel, and God's service therefore is a thing of perfect freedom. If someone is trying to pressure you into something, that in itself is toxic. So God doesn't torture you to believe in him. There are other forces in this world that behave like that, but not the divine. Enough said. You're going to meet the right people if you are at peace with yourself. Again, that's emphasis, right? Daily exercise, walk, fitness, stretching, breath work, meditation, right? That's a whole list, but breath work and meditation and some sort of physical fitness, and never argue with a fool. Never negotiate who you are, never argue with a fool, right? That's what have you got, right? We are bringing change. Everything looks fantastic. It's going to happen. The Sun card is here. Hierophant and the Empress, right? The conflict is subsiding, even if it might not look like it if you find this video, but this is an overall 2026 reading where we're going as a collective globally. The conflicts are subsiding. Justice will be restored, and we're looking forward to freedom and to a deeper freedom, a time of prosperity and development for humanity, true freedom. And it starts with yourself. You have to make peace within yourself. You have to learn to love yourself. That's the big lesson here. So if you make peace with yourself, then peace will manifest in the outside world. If you no longer manipulate, if no one can manipulate you through guilt, fear, shame, true unintegrated aspects of yourself, then this whole power scheme will collapse, because it is built on guilt, fear, and shame, and the fact that people are not able to love themselves, and therefore disowning aspects of themselves. And through these unintegrated parts of themselves, through their unintegrated shadow aspects, they are blackmailable, manipulatable, right? Controllable. But if you say, hey, I'm gay, and if you say, I don't know, yeah, I did that, that wasn't bad, that wasn't good, but you know what, I looked at it, I can forgive myself, that's very important, right? And if there's something you have to balance out, right, then by all means balance it out. Could be an apology, could be something to make it even, something to balance it out, right? But if you do that, then you can just, there comes a point when you just say, okay, I'm just a human being. I make mistakes and I learn from them. I integrate my shadow. I work on that. It's not so easy to integrate your shadow, but it's a process and a constant process. And you practice this through meditation, through breath work, to connecting with nature, to connecting with your own body, loving yourself, taking care of yourself, and you automatically healing yourself, you're integrating your shadow aspect, right? And that is very crucial, because if you make peace with yourself, then this peace will manifest in the outside world. And we got everything to do to work internally and externally, to speaking the truth, to standing up, speaking the truth, even if your voice is shaking, right? And there's this wonderful quote by Howard Zinn. I'm not sure if maybe I butcher it, but something to that extent of, it is the countless small deeds of unknown people, right? Who just keep doing the right thing, right? Who make the difference, who lay the foundation for the significant events that enter history. They have done it in the past, and they are going to do it in the future, and they also have to do it right here and right now. So it's a choice, right? It's a choice. Would you rather be free and love yourself and work with your shadow? Or would you rather project your shadow aspect into the outside world, basically? People who are not working with their shadows, right? People who are not capable or willing to transcend and integrate and therefore love themselves with even their shadow aspects and work with them internally, they are usually projecting these shadow aspects outwards. And that's how the entire scapegoat comes into play, right? You then need a scapegoat, right? You say, oh, it's I'm perfect, right? And I can't own my own shadow, so I have to project it onto someone else. And that is the scapegoat, right? Let's just blame these people, and it's their fault, and they poisoned the wells. And you know, whether it's the Jews, whether it's the gays, whether it's, you name it, right? This religion, that religion, this nationality is just BS. It's just BS, right? It's a whole projection game, because people cannot solve themselves, basically. So when we're beginning a phase where this is also the Two of Cups, right? This goes internally as it goes externally, right? And the inner and the outer, I would say the inner always constitutes the outer. The outer has its back coupling effect when it comes to the inner, but the inner is connected to the divine, not the, yeah, whatever. Yeah, there is the Five of Pentacles, right? But there's the Six of Pentacles, and there's Justice. So it has been pretty tough here, but justice will come literally from the Five of Pentacles to the Six of Pentacles combined with Justice herself. Then we got, some creative energy here. When peace is happening, you can manifest easily. And there's the Magician even. Let's just do one more. Magician and the Queen of Cups. Yeah, what I said. Inner mastership, inner, shadow integration, basically. There's the Knight, the Page of Pentacles again. We've got this. So, people, what did I say? I said a lot. I know I should make my videos a little... I think about making them not so long, but usually I just let it flow, right? And then it flows, and then it's half an hour or something. I try to... Maybe I do 3-card readings. Maybe I start a cycle with 3-card readings in the next few days or whatever, for each sign of the zodiac. And maybe I can go down to making shorter videos, right? Because there's a lot in here. That's why you should share, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it, whether it's resonating with you, whether you can follow that, whether I should slow down a little, whether I should make shorter videos. Shorter videos would be maybe 3 cards, and then, when I do a 10 card spread with bottom of the deck and clarifiers, there's a lot, but the take-home message today, it's going to be good. It's going to get better. Peace will be restored. Justice will be restored. But you have to uphold your principles. All of us, right, have to uphold our principles. First rule of mental health, learn to distinguish who deserves an explanation, who deserves an answer, and who deserves absolutely nothing. And sometimes you don't have to explain things or answer things. Sometimes you just have to make a few things clear and stand up for principles and rules and laws and decency, even if your voice is shaking. And in order to do that, a citizen, a soldier, human being, whatever form and function you have in society, doesn't matter, you're a human being. And a human being, to be able to stand up and speak his or her truth in defense of everything that's righteous and decent, you have to love yourself and you have to be at peace with yourself, because otherwise someone says, oh, he's gay, and then you break. If you not have integrated that, you can be destroyed by that. You can be blackmailed by that, and most likely you will not even stand up and speak your truth, even if your voice is shaking, because you're too afraid, you're too ashamed, you feel too guilty. Guilt, fear, shame, that's how it's done. Suppression, right? But it only works if you have unintegrated aspects of yourself. Then, if you have enough self-love and self-compassion for yourself, you can stand up and speak your truth, even if your voice is shaking. And if someone says, oh, that's a stupid fag, and you shrug your shoulders, and you're just you and the other person just called in names. So that speaks for itself and emphasizes your truth, if you can do that. And that is the practice. And the more people in humanity who do that, who love themselves and who stand up for themselves, the more it just is inevitable, right? It's just going to happen. Peace, inner peace, outer peace, justice restored. The Hierophant, the Empress, and the Sun card. Hello. So let's do one Blue Angel Oracle deck. Eternity and the New Earth. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I just had 2 cards, but it's the New Earth and it's Eternity. Okay, let's just do both. I have Eternity and New Earth. Eternity, the immortal presence. This life that projects you forward is also the eternal life that folds back within itself endlessly, time and time again. Life unfolds within itself in an endless cycle. The future is inside you, waiting to appear. It lives alongside this present moment. You will never have more or less than the present. So you are all you ever have been, and all you ever will be, all that is already here in the right now. Be in the present moment. Yeah, eternity is not a very long time. Eternity is timelessness, or time when you forget time. Basically, that's eternity. That's the eternal moment, the eternal present. And that's where you stand up. That's where you love yourself. That's where you do breath work, the eternal now. And then we got number 19, and that is the message here, transformation. This card heralds the start of a positive transformation to which a part of you or a situation that troubles you is cleansed and healed. There's a renewed sense of optimism. The future seems bright as you try new things and make acquaintances and friends. This is a time to keep focused on what is occurring now. Again, the emphasis on the here and now. The past is behind you, bless it and let it go. The present is all that matters. Watch for any lingering guilt and don't overanalyze things, especially the past. Watch for any lingering guilt, fear, and shame, I might add. Know that you deserve happiness, self-love, my friend, and it can only be found in the present, and it can only be found within yourself, I might add. Embrace your new life. You have nothing to lose but much to gain. That you are eternally loved is the eternal truth. All else is illusion. Feel the love within and around you at each new moment. And you might have made mistakes. You might have failed. Guess what? You're a human being. If you just dust yourself up, try to make it well again, or even, own up for it, whatever it was. And then try to make it better. That's how we learn and grow. And if you cannot love yourself with that, then then the darkness will come in and try to manipulate you. And this system is at work. And it's usually all the wars, right? These are externalizations. This is this mindset of there's something within me that I cannot integrate, that I need to negate. But, nobody is fighting war against himself. So you externalize that, and then it's the gays, then it's the trans people, and it's the Jews, then it's the, you name it, this nation and that nation, and, inner peace. If you make peace with yourself, you make peace with the world. That's the big transformation, and it works through self-love. Self-love. So it is salvation. Yeah, that's our spirit. That's our spirit. You see clearly now. Watch this video again. There's a lot to learn, and there's a lot for all of us to practice and do. Oh yeah. So I'm doing my little thing here, and hopefully inspire someone out there to resonate with this. Share, like, subscribe, let me know what you think about it. Check out this video. I'm linking it somewhere around here at the end. It's a seismic shift. We are going to enter a fantastic time, but it's always darkest before the dawn. So do not give up hope. Love yourself. Nope, that's all I got. See you soon. Ciao.